Hello, I'm Bill Wilson, and I'm here with Tim, going down the rabbit hole Inkelbarger, and this is Grocery Guys. I thought I would, throw in one of your top sayings there, Tim, to kind of give you a nickname.
Call me Peter Cottontail here.
Hey, it's Easter. Easter's coming around.
Easter's coming around. People are buying eggs and potatoes.
Potatoes, yeah. I can see that being a substitute for colored eggs.
Yeah, that's right. You don't want to egg somebody's house with it, or maybe you do.
Ooh, yeah. You can take out some windows with some potatoes, man. Some good Idaho potatoes, those big ones. Ooh.
Right. Yeah, that's a felony right there,
How do you color a potato? Can you explain that to me? How does that work?
That's a good question. I didn't think about that. You probably wouldn't be dyeing them, right? You would need some
paint,
some paint, some like real hardcore pastel paints or
industrialized paint.
Yeah, some spray paint maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we're not talking about watercolors here. We need heavy duty paint that you find in the back of a hardware store because it's so toxic. They got to keep it away from the customers.
Make Easter great again.
We'll get to Trump in a moment, but I like to kind of kick this episode off, and the topic is going to be pain. All right, and there's different kinds of pain. As you noticed, Tim, we were in the office yesterday in beautiful Chicago, and I was limping around. Apparently, I think I have a case of plantar fasciitis, or however you pronounce it. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but because I will have these severe stabbing pains in my heel now, and it takes a few days to recover from that. It's not bad today, but there was a time when my oldest, he was playing football, okay? He was 12 years old, and he's like, Dad, now let me premise this by saying that Aiden has a pretty low tolerance for pain, okay? If he chips his nail, it's like, oh my God, the worst thing in the world. So you got to know that going in. So he's like, Dad, my heel hurts. I'm like, you know what? Sometimes you just got to play through the injuries, Aiden. You got practice today for football. Sometimes you just got to suck it up and you got to play through it. So I drop him off at practice and I come back and this kid is still practicing, but he is in tears because he is in so much pain. And I'm like, come on, man. What is up? Why the tears? Well, plantar fasciitis, or however you pronounce it, is like Sever's disease. So I was in so much pain on Sunday. I called my son up and I apologized for something I did 6 years ago because I'm like, boy, I was too tough on you, man. I had no idea how much this hurts. And this kid practiced football on a sore heel.
Hey, it builds character, right?
That's right. Well, and you know what? I told him, I'm like, I hope you understand that the reason why I do all this is because life does not stop. You can have the crappiest day of your whole life and it's not going to stop running. You got to pick yourself up. You got to earn a living. You got to support your family. So I tried to make amends saying that kind of stuff. I don't know if it really registered yet. So I think I'm in the doghouse. Although he did say, you know what? You didn't. He's like, it's okay, Dad. You didn't know. So
he's definitely going to put you in a home one day and say, remember that football practice?
Guess how I felt after that whole episode.
So this is all about self-preservation. It's you're concerned about the future.
It's about survival, really. I mean, so we can survive a nuclear winter. But I felt like a heel after this conversation. I felt like a total heel. So
a very painful heel.
A very painful heel that I can't even walk on. I can walk on it today, though. So let's go to the meat counter. It's time to go to the meat counter. It's time to order up our meat of the episode. And it's another kind of pain. It is Trump's tariff and his pain that he has just delivered on the entire world. There's been a million news updates today, and there'll probably be a couple more before the day is over. But just a little recap here for today. China instituted an 84% reciprocal tariff on the U.S. in response to Trump's 105% tariff or 104% tariff that he initiated to kick in this morning, but then he upped that to 125% tariff on China. And he has put a 90-day pause on all the reciprocal tariffs involving other countries other than China. So China, their tariff is still alive and kicking. And with that news today, the stock market is going berserk. It's like up over 2,000 points. But Tim, I cannot even keep track of it like you can't. I'm sure you're having problems as well.
Yeah, no. Well, and speaking of pain as we age, it comes and it goes, and you never know where it's coming from. It's sort of like Trump's tariffs, right? It's just a big mystery. Every time you think you got it figured out, it's like check back. It's like the weather or something. Check back in 5 minutes, and it'll be different. So yeah, we just right before recording this podcast, the 90-day pause went in. I looked on the internet at the stock market, and it was bonkers. So anybody who knew about this in advance is making a killing right now. And I know that there's been suggestions that perhaps that's something that's happening behind the scenes. Who knows? Because we're all kind of in the dark here on it.
Well, apparently, countries have stepped up and they are starting to negotiate with the US. Again, this is unconfirmed, but this is what I'm hearing now. The stock market right now is up over 2,500. And here is my hidden agenda behind all this, and it just makes me annoyed. Here it is. I believe, could it be possible that Trump blew up all these tariffs knowing that the stock market would crash? So all of his rich relatives and friends could buy at a low price, and now they're cashing in.
Right. No, there's a lot of speculation, and when people talk about it being a manipulation of the markets, and who knows, I mean, maybe somewhere down the road we'll get a clearer answer. I noticed this morning before the reversal or the 90-day pause, and note that it's only a 90-day pause. We're not out of the woods here yet. This is going to be something, I think, that just kind of, as time goes on, get used to these kinds of threats. But Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, said we're headed towards a recession. I don't know if that had anything to do with the change. I know that Elon Musk, the buddy in chief or whatever they call him, has come out against the tariffs and been pretty vocal about it, which is maybe the first time I've ever heard him criticize the president. So, there's mounting pressure, not just from these countries or these trading partners. It's coming from, within the country and some of the biggest kahunas here on the block. You were talking, they were talking about it at the Walmart investment day today as well, I think, that you covered. So everybody's worried about it, right? I mean, it impacts pretty much everything. And even if a product is made here, it likely includes parts that are produced in some other countries. So our futures here are tied, and I don't know how you untangle that, right? I mean, the World Trade Organization has been at it for several decades now, creating these business relationships. And to just sort of come in with a sledgehammer and say no more, I don't think it's quite that easy.
It is a very difficult and complex process. I do believe, now again, unconfirmed information, but Elon Musk apparently, a lot of the parts for his trucks and cars come from overseas. Of course, Elon Musk denies this. He says most of his car parts are made in the U.S., but that's another reason why I guess he went ballistic over the weekend. He's like, this is not going to work because it's going to affect his bottom line. But as you said, a lot of businesses and even Republicans have stepped up and said, you can't go down this path. So I don't know. To be continued. Let's talk about the 10 foods that are going to be impacted by tariffs at the grocery store. Here are the 10. And I don't know, there are really
Am I
no
still going
surprise.
to be able to buy my my smoked salmon? How about avocados? I eat them almost every day. Like it's it's incredible.
So obviously seafood is a big deal. We get a lot of our seafood overseas. Coffee. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I'm good there. I think you are though, so you might that might hurt you a little bit. Um,
I know. I already buy cheap coffee too. Like I am not a coffee. I used to be a coffee snob, and I changed over the years to where I buy the cheapest coffee. So I can't really go any lower than I'm already doing.
Fruit, as you mentioned, namely bananas and avocados, but now that he's put a pause, um, I'm thinking that bananas and avocados are going to be okay for the next 2 or 3 months.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if you've seen it yet, but FMI put out a list of different things that will be, that's the Food Institute, um, that will be impacted. And it's obviously not comprehensive, but spices was on there as well. I don't know if you saw that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we'll get to that as well. Well, spices is a big deal to certain grocery stores. Alcohol, wine, imported beers, which I'm not, I'm a Miller Lite kind of guy. I don't drink wine, so that doesn't impact me either. Beef, 90% of beef is produced here, but there is small amounts, I believe, in Australia and New Zealand that we go off of. And beef is already, as you know, has been you know, marred in price increases for the last year. Cheese, which I like cheese. Who doesn't like cheese? Nuts, chocolate. Look at it. Listen to this. Hershey imports over 70% of its cocoa beans, which I guess makes sense. I mean, they don't really grow them in the U.S., do they? I don't think the climate is there for it.
I've never heard of a cocoa bean farm here in the
Yeah,
United
I
States, but
haven't either.
perhaps it happens. I don't know.
We should. Maybe that's our $1 million idea. Let's start one up, and we can be the only producer of cocoa beans in the U.S.
That's right. We got to cash in. There's so many opportunities right now, Bill.
Well, Trump's cronies are cashing in big time right now. And the last item is olive oil. So, as you mentioned, Walmart this morning they deferred their operating income outlook due to the tariff situation. Um, they originally was forecasting it was going to fall between the 0.5% to 2.0% range. In February, they were projecting a full year adjusted operating income would be up 3.5 to 5.5%. Walmart is sticking with its sales outlook for the first quarter. They're expecting 3% to 4% growth, so pretty healthy growth despite the tariffs. Other factors that are contributing to this delay for the first quarter for operating income includes insurance-related costs and less than favorable mix of merchandise. Although I'm sure that's just those are very minor attributes to this whole thing. I want to share a couple quotes. One is from Walmart CFO John David Rainey, and the other one is from CEO Doug McMillon. So John Rainey said today, what history tells us is that when we lean into these periods of economic uncertainty, Walmart emerges on the other side with greater market share and a stronger business. Our business model is more diversified, more durable, and I would argue more relevant than ever in this current environment. McMillan said, I've seen us navigate times like the period after 9/11, the global financial crisis, the COVID pandemic, and more recently, high inflation. While we're not immune to some of the short term effects, we are positioned to play offense. Nothing about the current environment impacts our confidence in our business or our strategy. And I will leave with this and I'll turn it over to you. Walmart was trying to talk to its suppliers in China, trying to make deals before these tariffs kicked in, and they got nowhere. China's suppliers were like, we're not budging. So it's interesting that these two say all this when, the suppliers aren't playing ball with Walmart right now.
Yeah, no, I've been thinking about this throughout the course. When we first started getting a real sense that tariffs would happen and at the levels that they would happen, the big question in my mind was, the biggest players on the block, the Amazons, the Walmarts of the world, when you start hitting their bottom line, they have resources and they have, the ear of powerful people. So it made me wonder how long it'll be before they step into the conversation here. But behind the scenes, of course, they're not going to put out a press release saying we oppose the tariffs, not yet at least. But perhaps their influence, had an impact on the current administration. I doesn't surprise me at all that they wouldn't have any impact in China because, in other places, because, why would they? I mean, China says, hey, get your people in order. So I would imagine that their heaviest lobbying efforts right now are happening at the White House. Walmart seems to me, and Amazon, even though everybody's going to suffer under these, but I wouldn't want to be a luxury grocery chain. I wouldn't want to be a specialty grocery chain right now. Walmart, it reminds me of the story that I wrote several years ago about the self-storage industry and how it was recession proof. When times are bad, people put all their stuff into storage and they get a smaller place and they hope that they'll be able to get a bigger place again. When times are good, they have too much stuff, so they put it all in storage. So it's win-win. I got to imagine that a lot of people flock to Walmart and places like that, dollar stores, all these, the discount grocers of the world during times like this. You just wrote a story about Asian supermarket chains and how they would be impacted. That's not a place I'd want to be right now. I mean, that's pretty tough.
Yeah, so I was at the National Grocers Association annual meeting in Las Vegas last month. John Ross, who is the president and CEO of the Independent Grocers Alliance, did a whole presentation on surviving under another Trump administration. And he went into tariffs, and he was projecting that if tariffs kicked in for a long period of time, for a while, he didn't really specify how long, grocers could be out over 3% in revenue. Now, if you factor in tariffs, the reduction in SNAP benefits, which is being talked about everywhere as they try and put together, the next budget, and a massive deportation of undocumented workers off these farms, if you factor in, and all are in play right now. If you factor in those three factors together, grocers could be out over 4.4% in business for this year.
Wow. Yeah. It sounds like a small number, but that's billions of dollars right there.
And like I said, all three are in play. And I'm not knocking John Ross one bit here, but during this presentation, he's like, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. I mean, no one can look in a crystal ball, especially when you're talking about the economy, and really pinpoint everything. But oh my goodness, this is all unfolding, and it's all could kick in later this year, with all three of those factors that I just mentioned.
Right. It's, like we keep trying to analyze it here in the press, and everybody else is trying to figure it out. And there are just so many moving parts. It's not just one thing. And the, starts and stops and, we're going to do it, we're not going to do it. It just creates a lot of uncertainty in the market. And one of the things that I've heard, not just in grocery, but throughout a variety of different economic sectors, is that this puts on hold a lot of planning for a lot of places, like companies that would like to merge, companies that would like to grow. They want to open a store here. They want to open a store here. They want to expand into this new market and whatnot. Everybody's kind of scratching their head, waiting for the dust to settle. And maybe we're just going to be in a constant, kind of economic tornado here. I think that's one of the untold stories of what's happening right now. I mean, if you watch the business news and economic press, they're talking about it, but I don't think that's really on the radar of sort of the average consumer.
Not at all. I would tend to bet that the average consumer is not looking at the stock market every day as well. But just to wrap things up here, we'll get to paper or plastic, but to go back to you brought up Asian supermarkets. And a lot of these Asian supermarkets or Filipino supermarkets, a lot of them are small independent markets. There are small independent grocers. And just to throw out some numbers, because that kind of cuisine has been on the rise here for the last couple of years. It's part of a $49 billion market in the US. It's grown at a compound annual growth rate of 3.0% over the last 5 years, totaling $55.8 billion. Now, H Mart, they have 90 stores here. 99 Ranch Market, they have 54 stores. Canadian Asian grocer TNT has 3 stores with another one in the works for San Francisco. But with these tariffs, frozen fish, rice, and you mentioned before, spices, those are the 3 categories that these small grocery stores really bank on. Those are the 3 ingredients or 3 food items that customers have been going to their stores specifically for those items. And they were saying that, of course, they're going to pass the cost of the tariff on to the shopper. They have to.
Right.
Grocers operate such a small margin to begin with. They have no choice. So here is my paper or plastic question. If these tariffs on China, we'll just stick to China here. And by the way, these 2 grown men should just get together and just hash it all out. Enough of the freaking, oh, I'll do this. I'll do this. I'm going to do this. Just talk it out. But if these tariffs on China and Asia, for the most part, continue and become a mainstay for into the summer, paper or plastic, can we see some of these Asian grocery stores close altogether, or are they going to try and fight through it?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me at all. If we start seeing some closures, maybe the bigger players that have chains like the H Marts of the world, might be able to weather the storm market to market a little bit better. But like you said, I mean, a lot of these places are independent. And, even, I mean, it's such a big business that like even Kroger's getting into it, right? They're doing that experimental Asian market in suburban Dallas. I don't think it's built yet, but that was something that they announced a few months back. Who knows? Maybe they pull back on their plans in that area. Yeah, I think that we see Asian markets go out of business. I think that we see Hispanic, Mexican, Puerto Rican grocery stores starting to close down or ramp down at least. So it's not good, for these specialty grocers. It's not good for
Yeah, I
anybody, really.
no, it's not good for anyone. If it lingers on into the summer, these ma and pop type stores are gonna struggle. I'm gonna take the glass half full approach though and say they're gonna be okay as long as does not go into the latter part of the year. I hope I'm right. I'm certainly not saying that you're wrong. I'm rooting for the small guy. I'm, the underdog here, but they are going to be in dire straits, no doubt about it. But really, my hope is that this tariff war with China gets resolved in the coming weeks. But look who we're talking about here, not just on the U.S. side, but on China's side as well.
Yeah. Well, and as we know, it's no secret that there are, China is not, it's there are problems with trade with China, right? They steal our trade secrets. There's a lot of promises not kept and so forth, but target those individually. I think that's that's the that should be the strategy. Take them to the WTO, take them to court. Maybe don't reveal your trade secrets if you're going to build electric cars over there, or if you're going to build some kind of tech thing over there. Be smart about it. But this, widespread, broad tariff, it just seems lazy to me, to be honest. It's like we're putting tariffs on an island that has nothing but penguins on it, because the speculation is that they used an AI model to generate the list. Do your homework, like, am I wrong?
You're not wrong. I can just see you pointing at President Trump saying, do your homework, young man, get to work. But I don't think Trump was very good at homework, as we know. So that will do it for this episode of Grocery Guys. We'll end on that note. In the Seinfeld episode, George, you remember when George Costanza was like, all right, I'm good for today. He makes a joke to the office and he's like, they're all laughing. He's like, all right, I'm out of here. See ya.
Right. Broadcasting next week from Gitmo. We are supermarket or grocery guys.
Grocery Guys.
Supermarket boys.
I am Bill Wilson and he is Tim, going down the rabbit hole in Goldbarger. Have a great week.